This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Banterly, the Gen Z podcast about pop culture, media, and everything in between. Maya is back in the studio again today. How are you, Maya?
Aidan, I'm doing well.
How have your resolutions been so far? We're almost towards the end of January, and how's it been?
It has not gone very well, especially this past week. My resolution was limit my screen time. I'm trying to get off my phone more. I don't think I've done that. The beginning of the year was strong because I was with my family. But when I came back to New York, work has just been crazy. So I feel like I've just been staying up, staring at my computer screen, and I am facing the consequences of it. So I'm on the struggle bus, as they say. But I hope that you are doing much better than I am right now. I hope that no coffee has entered your system.
You know, it hasn't, but I was so close. I went to Dunkin'. I had a doctor's appointment Wednesday morning, and I always treat myself because I did an adult thing. I'm going to go treat myself to breakfast. And so I went to Dunkin', and the Sabrina Carpenter shaken espresso was out. And I was so tempted to be I love a shaken, I was so tempted. But then I was like, no, I got a matcha. And I hate Dunkin' matcha. And I got a matcha.
It's nasty.
It's disgusting.
It tastes like grass
it's
or seafood.
Wow, grass or seafood. I don't mind when my matcha tastes like grass, but I do mind when it tastes like seafood.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't like the syrupy thing that they use. Whatever it is, it's like globs on the bottom, and I'm not a fan. But other than that, yes, I've stayed true to my resolution. So I'm feeling pretty good.
I am so glad. Has there been anything this past week in pop culture that you've been excited about?
You guys listening, I'm so excited to talk about this. So, so much devastation has come out of these fires in Los Angeles, but a little sliver of positivity has been the rebirth of Spencer Pratt and Heidi Montag, aka Spidey. Now, if you don't know who these two people are, which you probably don't if you're not a fan of reality TV or if you were born after 1998, these two were on a reality TV show in 2000, I think it premiered in 2004, called The Hills.
You're just being an ass.
How is that an ass?
You're not even paying attention to the problem right now.
Your sister's the problem. You're going off track
Maybe
here.
you're the problem.
And they were always the villain. They were a couple. He was always portrayed as so toxic, and she was so blonde and kept making stupid decisions. Spencer and Heidi were always the villains in the eyes of the general public. And they've come out and said that show was mostly fake. They did all of this for fame. They're notorious for calling the paparazzi on them. Just fame hungry people who, since the show ended, have been doing anything to make money. And Heidi released music in 2010. It flopped, but their house burned down during the Palisades fire. And Spencer's been using TikTok to kind of revamp their careers and bring awareness and been please help. We lost everything. We saved our kids, tooth fairy teeth and, some of their stuffed animals. But other than that, we lost everything. Spencer Pratt's parents also lost their house in the fire. So we lost his house and the house he grew up in. And they've said that, they're not reality stars anymore. So those checks don't come in. They've had to hustle the past 15 years. And because of this TikTok blowing up and because people have been using their music everywhere, now her album, Superficial, specifically the song I'll Do It, is #1
Wow.
in 12 countries. Diplo's reached out and they might do a collab with Pitbull, and last night Avril Lavigne stopped by their house to drop off some purses and had some wine just to support them any way they can.
Cheers. Thank you to 1 million followers on TikTok. Who would have thought all I needed is our house to burn down to finally hit 1 million. Can't believe I didn't think of that sooner.
I saw a TikTok about this. Well, I don't think it was about this, but now that you mention it, it was definitely in regards to this. This girl was and she's also an influencer, which I found funny. She said, if you're using the tragedy in California as a method to promote your music, like you are objectively a bad person and you should not be doing this. And I was so put off by that because I think people just, one, they love to complain. We know that. But two, if it's like a musician that was in like renting an apartment, living check by check, like I think you'd feel very differently about their song going number one if their house burned down. Like you just care about whose music is being promoted. I think it's a really great way to help rebuild the life you just lost, especially if you don't have the money to do it just sitting in a bank. But anyway, they must have been referring to Spidey.
Yes, their spidey senses were tingling. And I wholeheartedly believe that they don't have any money. Like, I don't know why you would lie about that unless you really, it's weird and it's embarrassing and they've owned up to it. They're very honest. Spencer has been honest and he's so funny from the beginning of their careers, and they're very upfront about the things that they've done for fame. Like they're not trying to hide it, which I think is refreshing. They're very honest, a little too honest. Like we don't need to know all that. Should we move into our question of the day today?
Yes, we shall.
The question of the day today is, what was your favorite game to play as a kid?
I love this question. My favorite game to play as a kid is Johnny May Across Your Bridge. Was this yours too?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Johnny May Across Your Bridge is a game where one person is designated as Johnny and they stand on one side of the field. We played this at recess, so it was a field. One side of the field. And the people on the other side of the field, so if I'm not Johnny and Aidan's Johnny, Aidan goes, Johnny may cross your bridge. And Aidan says, yes, you may cross my bridge if you are born in April. And so everyone who was born in April gets to go from like the unsafe zone to the safe zone. Now, if you're not born in April, you have to then run from the unsafe zone to the safe zone. And if Johnny tags you, then you're a part of Johnny's posse. And that is Johnny May Across Your Bridge. But at a surface level, it's a fun children's game. But I loved it in elementary school because you could always understand the social dynamics at hand by playing this game. You'd know who had a crush on who. You'd know who was beefing with who. And it was my favorite game because I feel like I understood what was happening at school. And yeah, I just remember playing it with people. And it was a way to let out anger and also to show someone you love them and also tell your crush that you think they're cute, instead of having to do it in any sort of formal or adult way. So I love that game.
That just took me back. Johnny May would cross your bridge. That was a big thing at my elementary school. There were two things. There was the main one and the side one. This might be like in only my little elementary school that Maya describes as a cult. It was called Pickle. It was a tag game, and there was long ways and short ways pickle, but it was basically tag with two different bases they get to run in between. But I will say, and I know Maya likes this too, my favorite one to play at recess was always Foursquare. What made it interesting when we were little were the mini games that we would play. So the king could decide, I want to do regular Foursquare, but there's gotchas allowed. That means you can catch the ball, and if you caught someone's ball without it bouncing the ground, that person was out. So there was gotchas, there was cherry bounce, which is when you do a really big bounce of the ball so it bounces over everybody's head. So when you're the king, you can make all these rules and be like, I want this, this, and this allowed, but you can't do overhand, or you can only do underhand, like things like that. And there were also like story time. So if the king said story time, you would all go in the middle and the king would have a special word. When they said that special word, you had to tap the ball, and the last person to tap the ball lost. So just little things to like spice it up. And we recently played at our friend's birthday. So it continues to stay strong in our hearts.
The mini games get a little bit intense.
They do. Okay, renters, quick question. Why aren't you earning points on your rent yet? Seriously, we're out here racking up points on coffee, groceries, and random impulse buys. But rent? Life hack for you, Built lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them toward things like flights, hotels, and a lot more. Let me break it down. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/Banterly. That's JOINBILT.com/Banterly. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/Banterly to start earning points today.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
On the topic of kids games, today we're going to be talking about Squid Game Season 2, a Korean show where adults compete for money by playing Korean kids games.
So Squid Game came out during the pandemic, and I don't know if you feel similarly, but it felt like it took the world by storm. Like, I knew nothing about this show. I knew nothing about its inception, anything. And then all of a sudden, everyone and their mom's sisters, brothers, aunt is watching the show on Netflix.
난 그 게임을 멈추려는 거야. 아직도 모르겠나?
It ends up being, I think to date, the most streamed Netflix original show in their history, which is impressive by itself, but I think especially for a film that doesn't have like a big US backing or isn't like in English with an American cast. And yes, like Aidan said, it took 3 or 4 years to get season 2, but into season 1, it kind of leaves off with player 456, Song Ji-hun, played by Lee Jung-jae, winning 45.6 billion won, which is equivalent to approximately $31 million in USD. And so from that, we start season 2 with him on a mission to take down the frontman of the games, In-ho, played by Lee Byung-hun. There are twists and turns. I was shocked the entire time. But yeah, that was a bit of where we left off from season 1 and into season 2.
And so on this mission, Ji-hun, the winner from last season, joins forces with the cop from season 1, Hwang Jun-ho, played by Wee Ha-jun, who was looking for his brother in season 1. So they team up and they try to find the island where the games are hosted and put a stop to the games, and so he can reunite with his brother. So Ji-hun ends up rejoining the games for reasons I'm still a little bit confused about. And while he's in the games, we find out, Ji-hun doesn't know, but the frontman, In-ho, joins and participates in the games as a player. And then in the very end, spoiler alert, there's a failed attempt to storm the control room, and we're left at a somewhat cliffhanger where Ji-hun still doesn't know that In-ho has been lying to him the whole time, and he's the mastermind behind everything.
I heard that they filmed the second season and the third season at the same time, and hopefully we will not have to wait, as you said, another 3 years to get the second season. And apparently there's a leaked date that it may come out in June of this year.
Yay. Wait, that's amazing. Doesn't Stranger Things also come out in June? Or did I make that up? Because that's going to be a big month for Netflix.
That Netflix is going to make a bag or two in that month.
A few bags.
This episode is brought to you by Companion. Iris and Josh seem like the perfect match, but when a weekend getaway turns into a nightmare, Iris realizes that things aren't as perfect as they appear. From the creators of Barbarian and the studio that brought you The Notebook comes a twisted tale of modern romance and the sweet satisfaction of revenge. Companion, only in theaters January 31st. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
So what were your thoughts in general on the second season?
I just want to preface by saying I don't think I really appreciated how attractive In-ho was in season 1, but oh my gosh, he looks like a sculpted doll. And he was just so, I was like, I don't know if it's because he was different in a tracksuit versus like a black armor, which I guess makes sense. But that was great. But overall, I will say that it took me a while to get into this second season. I watched it all, but the first 2 episodes of like the introduction and out of the game and on his mission to find the people just felt, it was just boring to me. It might have been a mix of things. I was very tired while watching it. I was in bed going in and out of sleep. But then once they got into the games, I was like, oh yeah, this is why I love the show. But what were your general thoughts?
I feel similarly about everything you said except for one thing. I rewatched season 1 before watching season 2. I was like sort of half watching it with my roommates, and then I ended up watching the rest of it on my own. Like everyone else, thought the show is just incredible, the writing, the story. And season 1 left off, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to like the second season because there was no cliffhanger, really. It could have gone in a million different directions. I was left having maybe a few questions, but I wasn't necessarily left wanting more. So I was curious what they would do with season 2. And my expectations were exceeded. I absolutely loved it. Something that I really loved is that they got rid of the red hair in the first few minutes because Ji-hun's red hair was very distracting, and I don't think I would have taken him seriously. And I love him as a character, and I adore him as a character in season 1. And I like that in season 2, they built him out to have a lot more of like a complex morality. A big part of the show, I think, is obviously there's no such thing as just good people or just bad people. Like the people who are involved with the games are a lot more complex, and they made Ji-hun's character a lot more complex. And what you said about the first 2 episodes, not loving them because you thought they were a bit slow. What I really liked about it, I did think they were slower in comparison to the games and much less high energy and stressful than the games. But I thought that we got to understand the world a little bit more that we were going back into, especially for people who had never seen the first season or had taken a break off. I thought it was nice to have like a little bit of a refresh. For example, when Ji-hun's hiring these people with his $30 million to stay in the subway stations and try to find the recruiter that originally found Ji-hun and brought him into the games. I don't know. It was just like a really brilliant point to think about people waiting in a subway station. That's their only job. They don't believe this crazy man who's saying that he was taken to the games where the rich kill people, very much eat the rich. And eventually they find them and you find the recruiter. We learn a little bit more about them in the first 2 episodes.
왜요? 생각이 많아지셨나요? 이제 성기훈 씨가 죽을 확률은 2분의 1. 꽤 높은 확률이긴 합니다. 겁이 나고 생각이 많아지는 것도 당연하죠.
See maybe a bit of his motives, but I still have a lot of questions about that. And I love the first episodes. Before we even got to the games, I feel like I understood the background of the characters so much more.
Me too. And on one of the points that you said about what you liked about the first 2 episodes, I liked that aspect of it, but not, how am I going to say this? I liked how there was that little taste of the outside world, but not in the first 2 episodes, but in the rest of the season when they would go back and forth between the games and Junho on the boat. And while it was frustrating, because one of them was real frustrating, I did kind of like that you got a little bit of a break, a reprieve from the stress of the games and kind of got to go back and forth instead of just being in the games.
I didn't love Junho's side plot. I just don't think they gave him a strong storyline. Basically, this fisherman finds his body after he's shot in the first season. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
And they have this friendship, and Junho asks the fisherman to take him to all of these islands to kind of scout out where the games could potentially be because they know that the games are tucked away on a very hidden island. And that's why part of the reason why it's so hard to reach them or to get the police involved in X, Y, and Z. This fisherman, though, from the first time we meet him is so suspicious. And I don't know if that was an intentional like device used by the writers or if it was like the actor's choice to be so obvious. But I mean, I could tell from the first time I saw him that something was wrong.
1년 반 동안 가볼 만한 데는 다 가본 것 같은데 계속 가시자고 하니까 이제 나도 잘 모르겠습니다.
Like something was a little suspicious in the way he answered or the way he spoke or the way he moved. We find out at the end that the fisherman's been involved with either directly with the games or someone else organization. We have no idea. But the fisherman is a suspect man. And I think that Junho's entire subplot was ruined by that. It was distracting me. I wanted to go back to the games every time I cut to it. It was a bit hard for me to get attached to. The other subplot that I want to talk about is Guard 11.
She is one of the people that is working for the games. What I liked is that this season we got to see the inside of the game and from the outside perspective of someone who was actively shooting and killing people.
It was nice to know what the pink-suited Squid Games employees were doing. It's nice to know what their motives were and who they were, because in my head, I guess when I first watched it, I just assumed they were all a part of the elite, or they were somehow like they were just a part of this like faction of people who support the games and are a part of the games for the reasons that people watch the games. But she wasn't. Like it seemed like she had a really big conflict during the show on whether to go back or not. And that to me showed that, okay, they kind of prey on people who don't feel like they have a lot of opportunity in life or options. And it was interesting to me to see that, okay, these people could also just be trapped in this cycle. Similarly to how they let the players go home if a majority votes them out, but a lot of them end up returning to the game because they realize that the game is an opportunity for them to acquire more money and elevate their status in their life. I understood that to be her thinking that that's her way out of maybe this is the life that she has now.
Overall, I think I like the players more this season versus season 1. I don't know if it's because we got to know them better or because their personalities or their relationships. I just like them better. Some of the characters that stuck out to me were number 149 and number 7, mother and son duo.
땀만 먹지 마라. 너랑 나랑 합치면은 1억 5천이 넘어. 그걸로 네 빚 다 갚고 알겠지?
And the mother was she was like a mother figure to everybody in the games, and she was just so nice. And her son was a little bit of an asshole. He would like get points and then lose points in my head because he would be like, oh, like, good, you're supporting your mom. And then, oh, you're voting to keep the games going on. And like, she always defended him though. A mother loves her son and she will defend him sometimes to the grave.
I just think that if your mother is in the game and you vote to stay in the game, after you know what the game entails, that she will probably most likely maybe die, I think you're crazy. He lost all the points in my books when he did that. But she was such a great character. And I loved her relationship with Hyunju, who was the like ex-military woman in the group who's transgender, but not played by an actor that is transgender in real life, played by a cisgender man. Which is an interesting conversation, but I love their relationship. And I thought it was like a beautiful, tender moment, like showing the mother who maybe had judgments or didn't really understand what she had gone through, and then just growing such big, deep love for her. When player 149, who's the mom, like put her hand on player 120 and was like, are you going to come to dinner? It melted my heart. I thought it was so sweet because they just wanted to get dinner after the games.
Another player that I liked that was kind of a bad guy, but I liked him. I thought he was funny, was player 230, Thanos, a.k.a. T.O.P., who was a famous rapper and K-pop star in Korea. So, you know, a little celebrity cameo, but he was just so silly. I loved when he talked in English and would be like,
what's up? Nice to meet you, my brother. Welcome to the Thanos world. Come on. I don't know what the fuck are you talking about. Fucking crazy, man. Stop it. Okay? My slave. Hey, Mizu! Come on, my boy.
yo, man, blah, 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 and show off he's like, I got all my stones with his painted nails, his infinity stones, Thanos. Get it?
Yes.
Another villain that I didn't like was player 44, who was a creepy little shaman woman. Her smile was just eerie.
이런 못된 것들을 봤나? 니들이 나를 찾아왔어야지. 내가 니들을 찾게 만들어? 이런 착득칼에 찢어 죽일 것들.
She scared me so much. I think about her a lot, actually. Her sitting on the top of the bunks, just staring down at everyone, screaming. I did not like that, but brilliant for the plot.
She was, but I hated her little perch up there. Every time I was like, where's 44? And then she would be up there like, okay, girl, back it up. She was...
The camera angle loved her. They did a lot of close-ups of her face.
They did.
We're always seeing her.
So Another thing that we shared in common about this season was that we both really liked the games.
One of my favorite games actually was not played in the formal games with everyone else and all the players. It was actually in the first or second episode with the recruiter, who is played by Gong Yu. He is one of the most incredible actors. He's also so fine, the most gorgeous man I've ever seen. And he is such an incredible actor. And when Jihan finally finds him after his, 3-year mission to find him, the recruiter wants to play a game with him, kind of for one life or the other. And the game that they played was Russian roulette. And he basically had a gun, and they would spin the barrel and lock it in and shoot. And so it was random where the bullet would land and who would get shot. And it was just the most intense scene I have ever seen in my entire life. I was holding my breath the entire time, and we weren't even in the game. So that was definitely a game that I love.
I would say the game that resonated with me and made me feel the most anxiety was the carousel game called Mingle. Where everybody was on a carousel and it would go around and round and round, and then when it stopped, they would shout a number.
6명.
And around the carousel, there were all these doors. And the number that they said was the number of people that can be in each little room behind the door. So they were like 3. So you would have 30 seconds to find a group of 3 and to run in this door. Or else if you don't have a group of 3, or if you take 4 in, you're dead. It reminded me a little bit of musical chairs when you're like scrambling at the last second. And it's not really a game of like skill. It's just a game of luck and speed, and just was so scary. And just the numbers, and me being a viewer, like, what number is it going to be? Like they all have their little like clicks, and it's like, but if the click has 5 and it's 4, like who goes out? And like if it's 3 and like what do they do? And overall, I think everybody played this. I didn't have any complaints about how they played because they did what they had to do. They did what they had to do.
And the scene
And
in that, I love that one too. The production was insane of that carousel room. But when the son and the mom are separated, and the son gets dragged against his will to a room, and the mom is scrambling to find a room, I said, yeah, that was hard to watch.
Ugh. I was like, if she dies, that son will live with the deepest. Well, he's not going to live that much longer in my mind. At that point, I was like, but he's alive still. Spoiler alert. But I was like, this is so sad. I was like, you got to fight harder. Your mother, it's your mother's life. You got to fight those guys away. I know he probably didn't have much pull because he was a little.
It looked against his will.
It did, but I'm also and
but he was the worst. So
he was. As I learned, WOAT, worst of all time. Mm-hmm. Woked. He was the woked.
He was the woked. The other great part about that game is when they say groups of 2, and Inho runs off by himself, and we never know which room he ends up in. And again, he's the frontman. So in my eyes, he just went to any room, or he went off to the side, or went somewhere where he knew the game makers were. But because we never get context about where he went or who he was with. So, I mean, how much are these people protecting him? It was just a good little moment to be like, how much are they helping you in this game?
The whole time I was thinking like, wait, what if he loses a game? And season 1, when that happened, when the game match, they like took him into a separate room, and Jihan only heard the gunshot. He didn't see it. But it felt like for this season, they were just killing everybody out in the open. Like that would be real awkward if like, oh, we missed. Or maybe they would shoot his leg and then I don't know. I was thinking about that. Like, this is crazy. I wonder why you're in this game. I still don't know why he chose. Maybe he wanted to keep his eyes on Jihan. Maybe he wanted to like, kiki with the folks. I don't know.
Well, we know he's a former winner of the game. So I was in between. I have a few different working theories. One of them is that he was that person. So he wants to wants to understand or like feel in a sadistic way what that is like.
Like when they cosplay as the poor, yeah.
I wonder if he just wanted to feel how he did when he was playing the games for the first time. I also think that this is a very dark, twisted man who wants to know the inner workings of Jihan because that's his biggest foe.
Oh, Jihan was so close in the end, but it didn't work out, unfortunately.
So, Aidan, overall, after watching second season, do you think you have a preference as to which one you prefer?
I think there was something so special about season 1, and it really did make its mark, that I might lean season 1, even though I did like the characters and I liked the way that they changed it season 2. But that first season really was so groundbreaking for media and me. Me and media. And media and I.
I have the same answer. I think that season 2 was so good, and I was so impressed with what they did with it. But season 1 was just, I'd never seen anything like that before. The characters, I just, again, fell in love with them. I wanted them to succeed so much. I cried when they died, and I was screaming when Jihan ended up winning the game. And it got everything I wanted and more out of it. So mine's definitely the first season, but I'm still so impressed with how well they made the second season. And I wasn't expecting much. So I was honestly pleasantly surprised.
It was so good. I'm so excited for this new season to come out and where they take it. Like you said, I want to see Jihan's reaction when he realizes who player number 1 is. Like that, I needed that this season, but I'll wait. I guess I'll wait.
Aidan, you're not going to like it. He's going to be masked up for the rest of the show. You're not going to see his beautiful face anymore.
No, that's actually depressing. But oh God, this was a good show. If you learned 2 things from this episode, it's stream Heidi Montag's music and watch Squid Game Season 2. I had to do one last plug for them in case they listen. If you did watch Squid Game Season 2, share your thoughts with us at Banterly at immigrantlypod.com and engage with us on our socials, Immigrantly Media on Instagram and Immigrantly Podcast on TikTok.
Banterly is produced by Shay Yu, written by us, the co-hosts Maya Shetty and Aidan Taylor.
The executive producer and editorial review is done by Sadia Khan.
Our sound designer and editor is Lou Raskin. The Banterly theme music is by Simon Hutchinson, and additional music is by Epidemic Sound. See y'all next week.